Hi, my name is Jeff, and I'm going to be doing a book review of American Sniper. Chris Kyle is known as one of the best lethal snipers in U.S. military history. Also, his book was really outstanding by giving the audience a field of view and perspective of how it is to be out in that dangerous area, as well as giving angles of the training and the exercises, the drills they used to prepare the mindset on how, in case of like a bomb goes off, what to do, how to treat that wound, if a limb is torn off, how to treat that wound, or, just in those areas. And he really gets in detail about how the U.S. Marines do more than just shoot guns and, quote unquote, kill the bad guys. So the book was really good. And I also liked, the one thing I really enjoyed about this book was the commentary and perspective that he put his wife in. And his wife also was, speaking in the book, and you can hear her commentary and how she felt about Chris going out. So it was just it was really good from there. And one quote that I really enjoyed from the book is, "You beat me down and they come back for more." As the Marines, as Chris, one of his fellow buddies, his companion got shot, and thinking that they'll rendezvous back at base, instead they just pushed further in. And it was just really just really brave to do that. And also, one thing that I really liked about the book was the interesting fights in the account that took in Iraq and Fahala, and just where they deployed at, the terrain, as well as bombs they had to defuse. You step one place on a tree point, you just don't know if it's gonna blow up or not. So there's another really good quote in the book. The thing we all had in common wasn't muscle, it was the will to do whatever it takes. And to do whatever it takes, in his perspective, and the meaning of, whether it's a 14-year-old boy who picks up a bazooka and aims it at your fellow companion, you have to make that thought. And also, him being a father, he had to make that decision, am I gonna take out this 14-year-old boy? And so it wasn't really the fear, but it was that feeling okay, it's either him or it's either us. So he, like I said in the book, he dropped him. That was page 102, and the previous quote was from 222. And Chris Kyle, he mentioned about the quotes that he used, and the tactics that were used in the battlefield to distract the enemy. And when enemy fire was taking, they were being shot by enemy fire, the strategies they had to use to make sure the ground unit was okay. So it's an immense responsibility, because your companions' lives are on the line. And it's either you have to you can't take your eye off the battlefield. So it's looking through a lens for about 5 to 6 hours can only hurt your eyes so much, so you want to give up. But that 1 second, that one hesitation that you do, and you just look down and wow, just like that, somebody's dead. So I just really took that into account. And also, it just the 4 questions that before I get into those 4 questions, the last quote was, "There's no reason someone who has fought for their country should be jobless or homeless." And that really struck me in a way to make me think there's so many war veterans who have put their lives down on the line, who suffer from the traumatic experience that they experienced in the battlefield. And for them to, come back home to a country that doesn't even, give them that decency of mind to give them something to help. And you just really take for granted what they do out there, because it's not just for their family, it's also for yours. Without the U.S. military, who's to stop, Iraq and those terrorist groups, or, communism states to come in and barge and, slaughter us all down. So to come home, for them to come home and have to be homeless and jobless is really like a traumatic experience that I can't even, I can't even fathom that. That's just unbelievable. That's in page 272 if you want to read that quote. But also the 4 questions to answer the 4 questions, what did this book make me think about my own life? And did I have a personal connection with any of the characters? This book made me think about a lot of the games I play does revolve around the army games, and I have my own BB gun, so it just makes me think this is something that I understand more than anybody else does. And the book, feeling that experience kind of gives you that it's not fully there, but I know I can connect deeper to somebody. I can have a more serious conversation to an ex or retired U.S. military person that somebody else can. And what did this book make me think about the outside world? Did this book change or support my perspective in anything in life or the world? To answer that question, I feel like this book, it really did give me a lot of perspective on the outside world, and just how much we take for granted on the U.S. military and the soldiers and the SEALs and just all those guys. It really makes you think wow, we don't really talk about it. Every time we're on the news, we only hear about just regular things that are going on inside our tiny little state. But it's so much bigger, and there's so much a bigger world out there. And for the president, him wanting to focus on the wall, I just don't think that's, in the book, Chris Carlton mentioned about the ammunition, the kind of stuff they had to do to reserve bullets, and because Congress wasn't passing the law for more ammunition and stuff, and taxes had to go up. So I just feel it shouldn't have to be something to where they have to, bullets are scarce, because it's ridiculous to go out in the battlefield looking for bullets to use. That's just that's stupidity. So I just feel it should definitely be something that the public should be okay, U.S. military is running low, guys, let's increase our taxes to support the U.S. military. Let's do let's do what we can. Let's ration out the food that we use, and give some of that money to the U.S. military to help the soldiers. So that's something that I really did connect to on the outside world. And the other question is, how does the author use the perspective in this novel? Was there any unique point of view? Chris Kyle really did make a unique point of view from his wife's point of perspective, which is, it's unorthodox that I'm going that route, but I have to say his wife, because, it's when he got home. The unique thing about it was his mindset and that switch to, on war, off war. So, when you're off war, it's even a firecracker going off, will set you off. You get on the floor, you duck down, and it's everybody's just looking at you at the party oh man, what's going on? Are you okay? And it's no, it's just a firecracker that went off, but at the same time, that firecracker is the most devastating thing, because it brings you back, it sucks you back into the war. So it definitely gave me that perspective of you know, what they went through, and like how serious PTSD is. So the point of view about his wife though was like, you know, like the changes that she saw in Chris, like he wasn't the same person when he came back. It was like he was this totally different new person, and like his characterisms were different, the way he does things were different. So it just really gave me like, I was thinking like, wow, like, you know, like somebody who goes in regularly and then comes back kind of like with a lot of baggage. And she explained the baggage, like, you know, how he would like he like hold her hand real tight when they're in bed, to where like she get bruises, and you know, like he'd jump up in the middle of the night screaming and yelling. So, you know, there's definitely a lot of baggage. And her point is like, you know, her perspective is like, every time he comes back, it's a new, you know, it's like a new man who's coming back home. And then, you know, also like, you know, how she felt as if like, you know, they just had their daughter and, you know, he just left. So, you know, now she's like, not daughter, sorry, son, their son, and he leaves, and it's like, you know, like, how do I connect with my son when I'm gone? So, you know, it really makes you connected into that book. And I feel like that's the author's main purpose in this book, is to get you connected and to understand how and what they feel and what they go through. The last and final question is, what has been the most challenging? What has been challenging during your reading? Was the language difficult? If so, how? I wouldn't say the language is difficult. For me, you know, I've been really intrigued and interested in the Army since like I was little, and I used to like, you know, like watching, you know, how they do things. So it has like, I understand the language, like CTC, ground force, you know, like all the code names they use. It's really in like a lot of the video games too. So like, you know, the video games really give you this aspect of like, you know, like it gives you a deeper knowledge into what it is. So for me, the most challenging thing I would say is the PTSD, understanding like the PTSD, because it's like, I don't know how to understand like how you, Chris describes in the book, like the moment he hears like, you know, like even in traffic, like he gets irritated in traffic and he rammed a couple of cars, because, you know, like when you're there in the Army, you're used to driving reckless, you're used to driving fast. So, you know, the PTSD was something that like, it was the most challenging thing for me to understand, which is weird. But it was, I just didn't understand like the behaviors of PTSD, and like how 1 second you're calm, and then like a closed door, like just the door can close, and like you get up with your knife out, you know, and then, you know, it's your wife, you're looking at your wife, but you also have your you know, your knife drawn next to her neck. So it's like, wow, like I don't know, like PTSD is I don't know, like from a logical point, it's kind of understandable. Like, to think like, okay, you know, the man has suffered, you know, a lot, and you know, you don't know, you just never know when somebody's gonna get you at night, creep up on you at night. So, I don't know. Yeah, that to be honest was the most challenging, and overall, the book was really, really good. I really enjoyed the book. It took me about 2 months to read it, just because of, you know, other things and other curriculums I had in school. But it was a really nice book, and I definitely encourage you to go read this book. You'd probably finish it a lot sooner than I have. But overall, this book was really good. He had like some really sick and funny humor in the book. And, you know, you just really saw, it was more like, the book was more of a conversation than, you know, a book itself. You know, it was a conversation of like how it feels and how it feels to be in the Army. And not just that, but like, you know, the brotherhood that you're like, this book is like, you know, 70% brotherhood. Like, it's really deep. There's some scenes, I mean, there's some like parts in the book where it was really sad. There's parts where it's funny. There's parts when it's, you know, just crazy, like everything, like so much action. If you really like action, this is also like a really good book for you. But I thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jeff, and this is the full book review of my summary. Thank you so much.